Howdy, y'all. Caleb here, and we're back talking the most expensive Seraphon army you can make. So, what I did is I charted all of our units, put their unit size, their points cost, and then their actual real dollar cost. Now, this is American dollars, so you'd have to adjust it for your own currency. But then I charted a price per point so we can see what value are the Seraphon units in regards to their points to dollars. Today we're going to look at what is the most expensive list I can come up with for Seraphon. So if we chart this and we look at them by the most expensive price per point, you can see at the top of our list are the Ripperdactyl Riders and the Terradon Riders, followed closely by the Dread Saurian. And we see one of the reasons is our Ripperdactyls and Terradons got a huge price cut in this last battle tome. And so now they're only worth 80 points for three of them. And a box of three costs you $60. And so that has an enormous price per point of 75 cents per point. And when we talked about yesterday, we talked about our least expensive. We were down here at the bottom with our Saurus Old Blood was 14 cents per point. So that's almost 5 times more expensive per point for a Ripperdactyl Rider than some of those cheap heroes at the bottom. So we're going to build a list using a lot of these flappy boys, the Ripperdactyl Riders and the Terradon Riders. Because in Age of Sigmar there is no rule of 3 war scrolls like in 40k, you can take as many war scrolls of the same unit as you want, and so that's what we're gonna do. Are you ready for this list? We're gonna go all Ripperdactyls. Bam! That is a lot of Ripperdactyls you'd have to buy for this list. We have 3 Ripperdactyl Chiefs that can all be in one box. We have a Skink Starseer because, we got to at least make this list playable, right? So he can give us some long charges. He can give us command points. He's a wizard. Good guy to make your general right there. We've got some battle line. You got to have a battle line of some sort. And then I have 9 units of 6 Ripperdactyl Riders. You could run these any way you wanted to in minimum units of 3, maximum of 12. But you've got a lot of Ripperdactyl Riders. You'd have to buy 18 boxes of Ripperdactyl Riders for this list. And that comes in at an impressive 212 wounds. Imagine this in Coalesced, where all those Ripperdactyl Riders are getting an extra jaw attack. They already have 3 jaw attacks. They get an extra one, and then your chief can give them another one. They'd be actually... Okay, Ripperdactyl Riders still aren't that good. But you would have a lot of dice to roll, and that's 212 wounds at -1 damage. And these guys are fast. They fly. They'd be all over the board. So how much does this list cost? An impressive $1,237.49. Oh my goodness. The vast majority of that comes from the Ripperdactyl Riders, which are quite expensive if you're buying this many of them. Same thing would apply to Terradon Riders, which are actually quite a bit better, I think. They're only 10 points more. You're looking at a very similar cost. You would probably drop 1 or 2 units just to fit the Terradon Riders in, but well worth it. The heroes are cheaper there, and they can drop those bombs for some nasty mortal wounds. So an incredibly expensive Seraphon army here. $1,200 for a bunch of flappy boys. But do you want to see what this looks like on the table? I obviously don't have this many Ripperdactyl Riders. I don't know anybody that does. If you do, comment below. We need to see some battle reports from this. But this is what it looked like on the table. I pulled it up in Tabletop Simulator. Amazing. To be honest, there's not really a lot of room to put these guys in your deployment zone. And if you've ever played with Ripperdactyl Riders or Terradon Riders, these guys have a giant wingspan. And putting this many in a deployment zone here in Tabletop Simulator was actually pretty easy because they can overlap. In real life, these things are impossible to put next to each other. We do have all of our units. We've got our heroes here, our Skink Starseer, another hero to help buff those guys. you are literally going to flood the board. Here's a that would be insane to see in real life. Good luck transporting that somewhere, but an amazing list of all Flappy Boys there for $1,200. The most expensive list I could come up with for Seraphon. If we go back and look at our list again, I'm going to quickly hit. Maybe there's a couple more lists we can make that are a little bit more respectable. I am willing to bet that whenever AOS 3.0 happens, many say sometime this summer, we may get a restriction to where you can't spam the same war scroll more than 3 units worth. And so I'm gonna look at that and see what I can do. So some of our more expensive stuff at the top here is a Dread Saurian. He is $240 for 510 points. Pretty hefty there. Also a gigantic model. Pretty awesome. The Scarvedon Carnosaur actually makes this top list, but it's priced at $85 if you're just buying it. You can actually reduce that price per point pretty significantly with the Start Collecting box. Not to where it's down near the bottom, but it's at least in the mid tables there. Croxagore, pretty expensive price per point since they've only got 3 models and it's $55. And I was expecting to see like the Salamanders on here and the Razordons. The Razordons get pretty high because they're only 80 points for one. But the Salamander pack's kind of towards the middle. 27 cents price per point. They're actually not that bad. Now you do have to buy quite a few for a list, but I'm generally only running 3 now in a list. But you could make a pretty expensive list out of Salamanders. It'd be a pretty ugly list because those models are terrible. But so I'm going to stick up here at the Ripperdactyl Riders. Let's look at another list real quick. We've got a Terradon list with a Dread Saurian added in, and this one's all it's approaching $1,000. We got Croak, a couple of Terradon Chiefs, our Battle Line Skinks, 3 big units of Terradon Riders, and a Dread Saurian. This one's probably not a bad list. There's going to be some people that are going to have a really hard time dealing with the Dread Saurian, and then you're gonna nail them with these Terradon Riders as it's going to drop a ton of mortals on them. And Croak is always good in every list. He's going to generate a ton of command points. I like this one, other than that price point. But if you've already got a whole bunch of Terradon Riders and you happen to have a Dread Saurian too, I like this list. Going a little bit cheaper, we're going Dread Saurian spam. This is the one I kind of thought was going to be the most expensive list we had. I've got 3 Dread Saurians in this list. You can't make it work with 4. We've got 3 Battle Line of Skinks and 2 Skink Starseers. I like them to help them, give them a longer charge, give them a +1 to their save, so they're a lot tougher. And you got some nice spells. So this one's $867. Also quite expensive. I'm not factoring in the cost of your 280 millimeter bases you've got to buy for these guys, but that's not too expensive. $867, so quite impressive there. Not quite reaching the level of our $1,200 Ripperdactyl Terradon list. So anyway, fun exercise. Don't ask me to price out the amount of Seraphon I have. That would be scary. But I haven't run this Ripperdactyl list yet. Maybe that's a tabletop simulator list. So my most expensive list I could come up with for Seraphon, we've seen the max Flappy Boys at $1,200. All right, let me know if y'all come up with a more expensive list for Seraphon. Let me know in the comments below. We'll see you guys later.